Greetings, fellow Americans. Susanna for President 2028. Welcome to the 2025 edition of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Fireside Chats. There's one that I'm very concerned about. It is probably the most wasteful, and I think that we can all agree that this amount of money is way too much to be wasting on anything. The U.S. Navy is set to waste 90 billion, in ineffective Navy vessels. Now, as I'm understanding things, they're planning on sinking them or something instead of abandoning these vessels, as well as abandoning these vessels, just destroying them. These vessels have valuable metals on them, and they need to be recycled. They need to be refurbished or reused in some manner. All of the parts. Even if you were to turn, something into a museum, I mean, that would be something. You could always get money back from that. However, it's unacceptable to waste our money this way. Reduce, reuse, recycle. And that is what we were taught in my generation when we were kids. There is no reason why we cannot take apart a ship and reuse and repurpose the parts for other machines, other ships, other things that need metals, that need an engine, that need, whatever happens to be on the ship that we need. Something has to be recyclable. So, there's some other stuff too, but these things are highly wasteful. We should not be allowing this type of waste to happen. It is no wonder that the government is always asking for money. It seems like they don't know how to properly finance our nation. And that's part of why I'm holding these fireside chats, so I can tell you how I have figured out how we can support our nation. There's a couple of other things in here that I'd like to mention. Things that I'm okay with as far as our money goes, and that's in our recreation area, things like sports, the Olympics, those types of spending are okay as long as they are a reduced amount, not in the millions. So $50,000 on breakdancing for the Olympics, I believe that is acceptable. It's $50,000, and we as Americans support the Olympics. We support our sports teams. So I believe that this is acceptable. I don't believe it's wasteful exactly, but not everybody's going to agree with that. Spending things on our recreation areas are acceptable. The Department of State also spent $345,000 on football engagements, and I believe that this was in another country, and it was to counter terrorism. So this is acceptable to me because of the amount, $345,000. That's acceptable. It's right around the $300,000 mark. But football also is encouraging others to become team members instead of fighting. So I understand this importance. You're engaging people instead of fighting each other. It's fabulous, actually. The National Science Foundation spent $288,000 to ensure bird watchers, as part of the recreation district, groups have safe places, aka affinity groups. That's acceptable to me too. It's on a smaller amount, just like the football thing. It's part of our recreation aspect. Sure, these little things may add up, but they're not as bad as what we are seeing at the very beginning of this podcast episode. Very large amounts, in the millions and billions, being wasted. That's very significant, large chunks of money. Something that I think is unacceptable is the Sesame Street show that was paid for in Iraq. The Internal Development Agency spent $20 million on this show. Okay, my opinion on this is that this show should have been paid for by the producers or the country that it's being shown in, or at least partly paid for. $20 million is too much to invest in another country this way. And the producers of the show, they also need to understand that that's quite a bit of money. That's taking away from our nation as well. $20 million. It's a lot. So we should not be spending that kind of money. Investing in it, sure. $300,000 cap for now. So on some things I do agree. On other things I do not agree. That are included in this report. And this report, again, was released by Senator Rand Paul. Now, I've given you my opinion on that. We're going to move on to President Biden's interview on MSNBC a couple of days ago. I want to say, he mentioned that there are bullies in our government. And yes, there are. I see them. I know that he sees them. President Biden, you are not the only one who does see them. There are a lot of us in our nation that do. Some of the steps that we can take to protect ourselves from these people are guardrails, legislation, and, of course, the people. The people are a safeguard. When we come together, we are exerting our right to govern. We are committing ourselves to justice and peace in our nation. So, I actually want to invite President Biden, President Barack Obama, President George W. Bush, and President Clinton onto my podcast. I would love to visit with them. I will be perfectly honest. I'll be direct. But I think that I could point out some things that maybe you didn't think of. And it'd be interesting to see your reaction. It doesn't have to be live. It can be pre-recorded, but we can get into details if you message me back. I will tell you all of this. We have power. One of the things that President Biden stated as well in this in his MSNBC interview is that we need to change the formula for the economic flow. Well, Mr. President, I've been working on that, and I'm releasing it with my National Recovery Plan, Financial Restructuring Acts, and the entire package. It is reasonable. It is just. It does not violate the Constitution. And I would be very interested to show you. We do have the power to vote for this. We have the power to give our president power. We also have the power to take that power away. Some of the things that I would have to say to you, to say that our presidents, if they joined me, is about this power. Describing this power, how this power could be used to protect the people. The presidential power. However, right at the moment, we are in a little bit of a interesting situation, to say the least. Not all of us are very thrilled about this situation. I know that Donald Trump is going to try to make a mess of our nation. He is already implementing Project 2025. It has already placed people in positions to implement Project 2025. I have actually read this document, and I'm pretty sure that any senator who has read this document and sees the violations of the Constitution within this document is seeing it already happen. It's already happening. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about this next week. I'm going to go into some details to just kind of give you a heads up on what you're looking for. And what's really odd about this is that we should have already been listening. The entirety of our nation. When this came out, our news outlets started reporting on it. And they do periodically still report on it. We are seeing Project 2025 come to light as we're going along each day. It's really sad to see. It's really upsetting to see, and it's very worrisome. I honestly hope that our nation will make it through, and I honestly have faith that we can do it. I have faith in our nation that we can do it. Regardless of what happens, I think that we are strong. We are strong as individuals, and whenever strong individuals come together, it creates a strong nation. That is all I have for today. I look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you for your time, and may our path lead to peace and prosperity.